what is meditation? Meditation is existing as a conscious being, which I believe is 3/4 of our existence, of our life. When your eyes are open, you are living the 25% of your existence, which is eyes open, you live in matter, you live in the real world. That is 25% of our existence. The other 75% of our world that we can experience is a conscious world. That is the world where all the answers are. That is the world where everything is. In fact, when your eyes are open, this is the least enjoyable part of our existence. Even though it is great, it is still by far the least enjoyable part of our existence. So what is meditation? Meditation is existing as pure consciousness. I want to try to teach people some meditation techniques, which some would consider dangerous, and they are, but they're only dangerous to yourself. There's no danger that I have found with harming anybody else. In order to have breakthroughs, when you go down a path and you're trying to discover something, and you have a breakthrough, you have to die for microseconds. When you're right near your breakthrough, you need to cross over just a little bit. You need to cross over. When you die for that nanosecond, that is where you're able to have those breakthroughs. It's not the only way to have breakthroughs, but it is one of the more effective ways to have breakthroughs. And when you get into deep meditation, some might find this unsettling, but you have to be willing to die in a good sense. So one of the hardest parts about meditation and the deep discoveries is actually staying alive. To practice these techniques and stay alive is difficult because you are balancing a very, very fine line, but that is where you must go to find the answers. Not all the time, but many times. So I'm going to try to explain some of these techniques which have been guarded by many because they deem them dangerous, which they are only to you. But I want to try get some of these techniques out there so that you can try them for yourself. I'll just go over one that I recently had. I knew that humans don't need sleep. I knew there was a way to break that barrier. And I have discovered 2 ways in which humans don't need sleep. One way is you can meditate and you can get to an area of spiritual light. It looks just like, to me, a big ball or orb of universal spiritual energy light in front of you. And that spiritual light pushes into your chest and it revitalizes your spirit and your body to the point where it essentially replaces sleep. You are getting recharged without sleep through spiritual energy. Now, that is one way I have found that we don't need sleep. I can't attain this all the time, right? I'm not a spiritual master. I'm a beginner. And these are some of the beginner things that I've discovered. The second way, and the most enjoyable way I've realized humans don't need sleep, is to sleep while conscious. And this is something I discovered last night. So what you do is, for this spiritual journey, I was laying down. You'll want to lay down in a sleeping position. You want to lower your brain, your frequency. You basically need to shut off your brain as if you're sleeping. So you lower your frequency, you go to sleep while remaining conscious. You won't quite know it when it's happened and it'll feel like you've been knocked out for a microsecond. And when you wake up, you will realize that your body is dreaming, but your consciousness is completely separate from your body, which is dreaming. So to sum it up, essentially, your spirit can meditate. Your consciousness, which is your spirit, can meditate while your physical body is sleeping. So yes, your human body, in most cases, needs sleep. Your spiritual consciousness is energy. It does not need sleep. You do not need to turn it off. Once you can master this technique, your consciousness will never sleep. Your body will sleep. Your consciousness will meditate while your body sleeps. And the way I did this crossover was I essentially, when I lowered my brainwaves and I was laying down, I essentially had to be willing to die for a nanosecond. So you just cross over the life and death boundary just for a little split second. And when you do that, that is when you can have your breakthroughs. When you cross over that life and death boundary for a split second, that is when everything changes. My spiritual consciousness was over here above my body. My body was down on the bed. It was sleeping. I could see the dreams that my body and my brain were having. I was not in the dream. It was not a lucid dream. I could see my body's brain dreaming while my spiritual consciousness was separate from that. Do you know what that means? I believe that means that this reality doesn't actually exist. If my spiritual consciousness acts independently and has thought, while my body and my brain is operating and thinking and having its own thoughts, that means my spiritual consciousness does not need the body or the brain. If I died right now, a comet hit the world and everybody died, it would not matter at all, because my spiritual consciousness does not need this body or this brain to survive. So that to me means this reality doesn't actually exist in a sense that it actually has any relevance or matter. So what are we doing here? I believe this reality, which we're currently in, which is inconsequential, is a reality created by humanity. It was created by humanity because our brains are unevolved and undeveloped. In a sense, we are half a step out of the cave, all right? We're half a step out of the cave. We're just smart enough that we're dangerous. We're very stupid, we're very dangerous. It doesn't have to be this way. Once we can change our spiritual consciousness and evolve, we will be able to control I don't know. But I believe we are here in this world of matter, which is inconsequential, kind of as a prison which we have put ourselves in because of our unevolved minds. This is what I believe. What is this world that we live in doing? It's stopping us from ascending, which I had the option to do. I've had the option to ascend. I've seen the path of ascension. I said no because of things that are happening on Earth. We'll talk about that in a different video. But I believe this world, which we've created, is a prison which we've self-created for ourselves, which is stopping us, blocking us from becoming enlightened and ascending. Everybody can become enlightened and everybody can ascend, and there are multiple paths to both. It is not a set path. I can share those techniques with you probably in future videos, but the fact that my spiritual consciousness can operate separately while my body and my body's brain is operating and having dreams and thoughts of its own means we have two consciousness which we don't quite know about. Everybody thinks you know who you are. This is you. I have a consciousness. My name is Jason. I have thoughts. I know who I am. Wrong. You do not. All you know is your meat brain and your meat consciousness. Our spiritual consciousness can act completely independent of this body and this brain. So, your consciousness does not need sleep. It is eternal. It is energy. Your body needs sleep. A goal for you is when you go to sleep, right when you fall asleep, the cusp when you fall asleep, pull your spirit back, your consciousness. Your spirit is your consciousness. Pull your consciousness back the second your body falls asleep. That way you are awake and spiritually meditating while your body is sleeping. I think it would help if you have a clean diet and you're healthy. These things will be a lot easier. That's something I'm working on now, is eating much healthier so that I can have these spiritual breakthroughs a lot easier in my regular everyday life. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, is that there are multiple meditation techniques you can utilize, which I have found as a beginner, where the body doesn't need sleep. Or rather, I should say the consciousness doesn't need sleep. The body, in most cases, does need sleep. The consciousness does not. So I think I've shared some techniques in here that might help you. And yeah, I plan on sharing some stuff with you that I don't hear anybody else talking about. I don't hear anybody other than Tibetan monks, which guard their secrets quite carefully. I don't really hear anybody talking about this type of stuff. So I want to get this out there because we need to evolve our monkey minds. We need to evolve as a species. And I think it's very easy. In fact, I think I'll do this in this video. I might cut it up. The next stage to human evolution is actually very simple. We can be so advanced so quickly and in the universe with the other species quite quickly with one simple technique. I can change the world with one technique. In order for humans to evolve to the next stage of our evolution, in order to get rid of all the sickness in your body, the sickness in our minds, everything that's wrong with the world can be cured with one thing: to live with no hate in your heart and no hate in your mind. That is the key to our evolution, the next step in our evolution. You cannot advance as a species if you're living in a world of hate. Do you understand? Once you have no hate in your mind and in your heart, it opens you up to growth and to learn and to heal. So for that one simple thing, live without hate. That is one challenge I want for everybody, and I'm working on myself. Because before I came to these techniques, I had a lot of hate for everything. I had hate for government. I had hate for taxes. I had hate for how much we have to work in our life, how hard life is, blah, 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 blah. I had all this hate, even a little racist. But since I've discovered these things through meditation, I have discovered that you cannot progress if you have hate in your heart or your mind. So learn to live without hate. Once we can get the population to do this, once the majority of the population does this, the growth of humanity spiritually will exceed exponentially. Exponentially. So it's the one of the hardest things you'll have to ask somebody to do. Don't ask them, but I mean, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. It's going to be the hardest thing and the easiest thing I've ever asked you to do. I want you to live without hate in your heart, in your mind. That's it. Humans will then evolve to the next stage. I just let you in here. Okay, what else have I discovered? So I discovered chakras. What are chakras? So should I make this another video? You know what, whatever. If you want to listen to me ramble, you can listen to me ramble. What are chakras? So our body essentially works on a frequency, and that frequency is from 0 to 100, say. It's 0 to 100. That's the frequency which we live on. The chakras are like, say you have a chakra which is at the 80% frequency, for example. Maybe you'll have a chakra at the 60, at the 30, at the 20% frequency. And all chakra meditation and training is, in my uneducated description that I've found for myself, is you're focusing on the 80% frequency. So you'll focus just on that 80% frequency for a while. And I find Tibetan healing bowls or meditation bowls are the best way to do this. And you'll focus on that for a while, and it will be the greatest experience of your life. The frequency healing is beyond any feeling I think I've ever had before, because you're in a very deep, it's not even a meditative state, it's almost a trance. You go into a trance and you work with the different frequencies of your chakra. So you'll focus just on the 20% for a while, and then you'll move to the 60% for a while, and then to the 80% for a while. And it's just focusing on certain frequencies for a little while. And it's really just kind of a massage for your soul, for your frequency. You're massaging your frequency and enjoying and experiencing your frequency, all the different areas of that frequency. So to me, that's what chakra meditation is. There's no need to do anything dangerous for that or cross any boundaries with that. Enlightened beings. What are enlightened beings? Have I reached enlightenment? Yes, I have. In meditation, I have reached enlightenment multiple times. Let's talk about that. One of the ways to reach enlightenment, which I find is a shortcut way, while you're meditating, so what is meditation? Meditation is existing without thought. Do not think. Thoughts do not exist. This is the most important part of having breakthroughs in meditation. You must realize thoughts do not exist. If you are existing with thoughts, your mind will never truly be open. A thought is something that traps, controls your mind. A thought, it's a direction. You don't want a direction when you're meditating. You want freedom. The only way you can have freedom is to exist without thought. And so you have to remember, I'm existing without thought. Thoughts do not exist. Don't even think thoughts don't exist, because that's a thought. You have to live. You have to switch your brain to live with, to be in a space without thought. And I'm going to share, I've done it a couple times, but I want to share my first breakthrough experience with you. So I was meditating and I was existing without thought, and I was having a breakthrough, and it looked kind of like a Marvel movie. I was shooting down a tunnel of light, and the light was all colors, like a crazy Marvel movie. And I'm shooting down this tunnel of light at like light speed, an insane speed. And I had thoughts coming in from the walls of that tunnel, from the corners, and they're coming in like bullets. They're coming in like missiles. Thoughts are shooting in like, you're not good enough. You did this, you did that. You'll never, whatever. Thoughts are all coming in, and they're hitting me, and they're bouncing off. You cannot let thoughts penetrate you. You have to keep moving forward. And remember, thoughts do not exist. Exist without thought. Exist without thought. Thoughts do not exist. Keep thinking that. And you'll break through that tunnel, and light, purity, tranquility. You essentially, the closest thing I can explain it to is actually when Thanos snaps his fingers in the movie in Infinity Wars. And then he goes to the reality where his daughter is. And she asks him, was it worth it? You will go to a place like that, a place where it is just pure tranquility. And once you exist without thought, anything's possible. Anything's possible, and everything is possible. I have seen things which I know are possible, but just because you know something's possible doesn't mean you're ready to go down that path. For instance, I knew I could sleep while awake. I could do that switch. I could have my body sleep while my consciousness was awake, but I wasn't ready for that path. It took me a month and a half, and now that path became available to me. And we'll talk about pathways and which pathway to take through meditation. Okay, so I want to talk about, have I ever seen a God? No, I have never seen a God. I've never experienced a God. I have seen Buddha before. When I was on my path to ascension, which means I was there. The portal to ascension was there, and I was able to go through it. And basically, as I reached ascension, the path to ascension, a Buddha was there. I don't know if it was actually Buddha or just a representation of Buddha, but it was a Buddha made of pure light, and it was emanating the most brilliant light. And it showed me, this is your path to ascension should you choose to take it. And I thought about it for a split second, and it hurt my heart to say no, because, oh, quite frankly, nobody wants to stay here when you have the option to ascend. But I decided to stay on Earth for a reason which you all are going to think is crazy, but it was essentially to save the world. I chose not to ascend because the state that the world is in, I cannot leave this world knowing that it is in such a poor state. It would be almost greedy of me. Ascension is the easy way out. I want to say that. It's just an easy way out, right? You can go exist in pure consciousness, pure light, which is the best thing in the world. But it would be greedy for me to do that and leave the world behind. So out of all the people that were ascending, I decided I was going to stay here. And I want to start addressing some of the world leaders with some of the things I know about this reality and what we are and what we're doing. And I'm working on ways to do that, to address Putin, because I think he's probably the most reasonable person, and he's in the best position to change the world right now for a positive. I think the first step starts with him, but we'll talk about that later. So have I met a God? No. I have seen Buddha, or a representation of Buddha in the form of pure light, which was amazing. What is evil? This is something I really want to talk about. There is no need to ever be scared of anything evil or anything demonic. So I want to give you a little representation. I have embraced evil before, pure evil. The darkness was like a black oil liquid entangling with me, white spiritual light, and we were embracing each other, like merging and just enjoying each other's presence. And it was one of the most beautiful things I've actually ever experienced. People have thought darkness, that evil is negative, but evil is not negative. And I want to relate it to this. If a gazelle sees a lion take down a gazelle, that lion eats the gazelle. That gazelle, if it has this type of consciousness, will think, oh, that lion's evil, it's killing us. But from our elevated consciousness, from our point of view, that lion is not evil. It is just being a lion. It is just doing what it was put here to do. All right? And that is what evil is. Evil is a being of purity, and it is just doing what it is here to do. And if you are weak and you have cracks, it will feed on you, just like a lion does. But that's what it's here to do. And the reason you don't ever have to fear darkness is because we are beings of light, which I think is actually quite rare among sentient beings in the world. So we are beings of light. And a being of light never has to fear a being of darkness because we are equal to or equivalent to a being of darkness. So you don't ever have to fear something when you're its equal or its greater. So people that fear demonic things, they fear anything that they consider evil, there's no need to fear it. Once you fear it, it will feed off you because you don't have power, because you don't realize what you are. So evil is an amazing thing. I shouldn't say amazing, it's a beautiful thing. Actually, in one of my last experiences, I was meditating my chakras, and I saw a doorway in the middle of my meditation, and I saw these black fingers coming up from under the door, like scary looking fingers, like pointed fingers, pure black. And they were coming up from under the door, and I could tell that there was a dark entity that wanted to test me, which I've had plenty of times before outside of the embracing. And they want to feed on you because you're in a vulnerable state when you're meditating. And I didn't pay any attention to this darkness. In fact, I just didn't even look at it, didn't pay attention to it. I just continued on my path, and it completely went away. Why did it go away? Because those things only have power when you acknowledge them. When you recognize them and acknowledge them, you give them power. If you don't acknowledge them and don't recognize them, they have no power, so they just don't exist. But they will test you. They will test you, which I find enjoyable. Before I started meditating, I was a person that loved nightmares. I love nightmares because they challenge you. Every nightmare has a challenge. Good dreams, there's nothing exciting about them because they don't challenge you. There's no excitement in it. Every nightmare is a challenge. So I always hope I have nightmares so that I can learn and have a little bit of fun. So that's what evil is. That's what darkness is. What else can I talk about? Let's talk about enlightened beings. What is an enlightened being? I'm going to say somebody like the Dalai Lama. I don't know. I'm just going to use that as an example. But say an enlightened being where animals even recognize that being when it's around. Like things know when there's an enlightened being around. There may be a few yogis out there that are enlightened beings. There may be, we'll use the Dalai Lama or a Tibetan monk, certain Tibetan monks, as enlightened beings. And how do you become an enlightened being? Is you have to make the commitment to die. So I've seen the path. I don't think you have to physically die. It's a spiritual death. Essentially, you give up. It looks like a sunset horizon. You go to the sunset horizon, your spirit. You will spiritually die. You have to make the commitment to fully die. And when you spiritually die, you will be reborn. And when you are reborn, this all happened instantly. When you are reborn, you will be reborn as an enlightened being. And those people that have walked that path are essentially the equivalent of Jesus. For what a Christian would call Jesus. They are spiritual Jesuses, which are living. Are you coming in or not? So they are spiritual Jesuses. We're existing on this earth. And to even be in their presence would be an honor. To just be in their presence would be an honor and an experience. Okay, so we've gone over all of this stuff. Okay. Now keep in mind, I've only been meditating for a few months. I haven't been taught meditation. I haven't learned anything. I watched a lot of videos on Tibetan monks and their spiritual techniques, And they say they guard their techniques because they're dangerous, which is true. These techniques are dangerous, but they're only dangerous to you. They're not dangerous to anybody else. So if you're willing to walk the line, you can have some fun. Just remember, when your eyes are open, you are living 25% of your existence. When your eyes are closed and you're meditating, that is the other 75% of our existence. It is the conscious world is the biggest world that we can access and the most enjoyable world, and where everything is. When your eyes are open, you are living the lower level of our existence. The 25% of our existence is when your eyes are open. Now I understand why people can meditate all day long. I understand why monks live so modestly. And it's because this world really doesn't exist. This world is inconsequential. What does matter is your spiritual consciousness. That is what matters. So if you spend all your time meditating, like really wasting time making money, buying houses, paying bills, all that type of stuff is inconsequential. It means nothing. It really doesn't. So I now understand why the Buddhist monks do what they do and why they guard their secrets, but I don't give a damn. I am going to tell you all the techniques I've learned, how to walk that line and stay alive, how to have breakthroughs the best I can with my untrained, uneducated mind. Let's see. I think that is it for now. I'm going to make some more videos. Maybe we'll practice some techniques and we'll talk about some fun stuff. Some other stuff I've seen pathways to but have not yet experienced, such as looking into the future, levitation, telekinesis, interdimensional travel. All of these things are possible once you walk the path. This is actually something I really want to talk about. What is the path? What path do I need to, sorry, I'm just plugging in my phone. What path do I need to follow? Every meditation trip will take you down a different path. And the way you are forced to go down the path is everything else you've done before won't work. You'll try meditate with meditation bowls, do a chakra meditation. Won't work. You won't resonate with it. You won't click. It won't connect. You can do. I was doing the CIA brain experience. CIA brain techniques, which I believe used to be classified, and that was what broke me open. And it was called. What was it called? Gateway experience. This all started with a CIA brain experience called Gateway. That cracked my brain open, and ever since then, now I can meditate, and I found all these different pathways. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Let's go back to the beginning. I remember the beginning of life, my life, all of our lives. I remember the beginning before we were sentient, before we had consciousness. I remember that life. So when you're given life, I don't know how it's created, but it's created. Boom. All of a sudden life is created. You're alive. You do not have consciousness and you're not sentient. in that life, I could go more in detail in what that life was and how it all happened, but it's a little crazy, so I think I'll leave that alone for now. But the whole purpose of that life, you're living as a very low life form, is to show that you have a will to survive. So all life is created, boom, you all exist there. You need to show that you have a will to survive, which is, in that state, is just eating, getting food to eat, which is all around you. The food is all around you, but you have to want to go to eat it. And what you're doing there is your life force is proving that it has the will to survive. So once your life force has proven it has the will to survive, then you are given a consciousness and sentience. And so from there, the ones that don't forage, the ones that don't eat, their life force is not strong enough to proceed because they don't have a will to survive. So they just die. And so we have all eaten. We've all shown we have a will to survive. So then we come on like a spiritual wisp over Earth. And you're over Earth in like a spiritual cloud above Earth. And then there are like tunnels, like funnels that go down to Earth, an infinite amount of funnels. And you can see all the different lives, and you choose the life that you want to go down to. And I remember choosing this life and choosing the family that I ended up with because I figured that I could help them, right? I figured that I could be a pillar and help this family and make their lives easier. So I chose this life. And I came down here. And I had forgot all that until I started meditating. And now I've got to the point where I can separate my consciousness from my body, and I realize that they're two different things completely. My spiritual consciousness is completely separate from my physical brain's body consciousness. We have two consciousness, and most people don't realize that, which is something we're going to maybe work on and try to do some more breakthroughs in the future. Yeah. Okay, we talked about ascension, we talked about enlightenment, we talked about evil, we talked about how to have breakthroughs, right? You got to walk that line of life or death. You have to be committed. And yeah, a lot of these techniques, it is difficult to stay alive while doing these techniques because you're so close to the line. So if you do die or ascend or slip away while meditating, it wouldn't be a negative thing. You just maybe went a little bit too far uncontrolled, but it would still be a great experience nonetheless. So yeah, I have watched a few meditations videos online, and I have not seen anybody talk about the things I'm talking about. I don't know what they're experiencing, but just realize the path you need to walk when you meditate will most likely be the only path that's available. Nothing else will work. So you'll be forced to walk the path you need to walk. I have yet to walk time travel. I tried a few times. Not time travel, looking into the future. I tried to look into the future. I went down that path. The first time I opened a window to look into the future, and it was just a blank window. I didn't know where I wanted to go, what time I wanted to see, who I wanted to see, a city, a person. I didn't have any of that planned. So the window opened, I had nowhere to go. So the window just collapsed and it didn't happen. And then I tried to look into the future a second time, and all of a sudden I had this like crazy ego that just showed up out of nowhere, like this attitude and this ego. I'm like, whoa, 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 where's this coming from? Right? And that is just essentially a stop sign. If you try to do things that you're not ready for, there will be something there to stop you because you're not ready to go down that path. And you can try go down those paths and you can try work on it, which is fine, which I've done and failed many times, but eventually that path will be shown to you and you'll be able to open that up. So, yeah, just follow whatever path is in front of you. Don't force your path. And another way to have breakthroughs, like I said, was exist without thought. But when you're meditating, just tell yourself and the universe, I'm here to listen. I am here to listen to whatever it is you have to tell me. I am not seeking anything. I'm not looking for anything. I am seeking whatever it is you are willing to show me. And then exist without thought, and it will come. It will come. Remember, when your eyes are open, you're living 25% of your existence. I think I've pretty much wrapped it up. You guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but try for yourself.